Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main fan page where I do my weekly show, Communications from Home. Welcome. This is a brand new time for us, just for today, and because I have a really important guest with me today. And we started this a little bit prior to this particular broadcast. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to join me and my guest, Ayesha Sheeba. And we went over her bio a little bit in the previous broadcast, but I wanted to remind you that Ayesha, in her bio, she's best described as a messenger of light. The many gifts and missions she's been entrusted with defines her journey as a soul through many incarnations, some of which have been phenomenal. And I'm hoping we're going to be hearing about a couple of those. She did pursue a rather unconventional way of life when she launched herself as a corporate trainer for leading a multinational companies and took a stepping stone to becoming a researcher, a scientific researcher in theories such as quantum physics and the chaos theory. She discovered a unique scientific motivational system called the universal truth of life, and her mission has since revolved around bringing the deeper concepts of life to the common man, to the rest of us, right? And so she always gravitated towards her spiritual abilities, as it was hard, almost impossible not to do that, and I think we can understand that. She says, which was clearly to clearly see and communicate with the higher dimensions. And her guides, guardian angels, and ascended masters kept insisting that she merge her spiritual life with her current work. So she went back to the drawing board and she started researching on how the supernatural world can in fact become a catalyst for mankind to evolve into their fullest potential by implementing their spiritual gifts and belief system in their everyday life. So she says that this was soon to become the most thrilling and path-breaking discovery thus far. And so with that, I want to bring Ayesha on, and so that we can hear the rest of the story. Welcome to the show, Ayesha.
Thank you, and Neshi, and thank you for inviting me over for the show as well.
Yeah, and welcome to everybody who's in the chat room. We're going to give it just a couple minutes because we kind of had a stop-start kind of situation going on here, and it was all about time zones, communication stuff. And it is Mercury retrograde, so at least we have that to lean on. Just a little bit.
I guess so. We got somebody to blame.
There you go. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take my phone and I'm going to share this live stream so that more of our friends know that we're live streaming.
Right.
And I'm going to find it right now. Let's see. Got to update. And got to make sure we're on the right page here. There we go. That helps. Just going to take a second. As soon as I find it, here we are. We're going to love it. And we're going to share it. And if I can ask our audience in the chat, I'd invite you to do the same thing to help others that wanted to hear what Ayesha has to say, to remind them that we're now live. And it would be very helpful if you did that. And I'm just going to put it over to my news feed so that all my friends know.
Okay.
And just going to let them know that we're live streaming right now. And to please join us. And there we go. There, that's done. And I don't know if our social media person is going to be in the house right now, so I'm going to send it over also to a couple of our groups, and just to let them know. Spelling would be helpful. Spelling correctly. There we go. And let them to know to please join us. There we go. That works. And I just want to make sure we get it to the right groups here. There. Done. Done and done. Thanks for pausing just for a little bit for that. Making sure the sound is off on my phone. There. Well, Christina's here with us. Hello, Christina. Good to have you here with us. And somebody that you may know, Ayesha, is Chantel, is also here.
Yes. Yes, yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, ladies, if we could get you to share the live stream, that would really be helpful. Thank you so much for doing that. So, Ayesha, reading your bio earlier, I read practically the whole thing to the audience, and letting them know that what we're talking about is the future of spirituality. And from your position and all the work that you've done and all the experience that you've accumulated over the 20 years that you've been doing this, that you have some information to be able to share with us. And I also shared with our audience that that this is something that you grew up with, that you've had spiritual abilities, your gifts, since you were like a toddler. And yes. And then, something that our audience could relate to is that those around us may not know how to be with us when we're using our gifts so openly and fully. And so you were finding a way to be able to do that and not be allowed to be put in a box and the lid put on, that you found a way to be able to do that. And that kind of led you to where you are today, even all these years later. So if you could tell us just a little bit about that part of the journey for you, because I think that would really help our audience, understand what it means to evolve spiritually.
Well, my spiritual gifts, I guess they started even before I knew how to speak well. Very little. And for me, it was quite I thought it was normal, because when you're that young, when you're 3 years old, you're in awe of everything, and you pretty much believe everything that you see to be a part of your immediate environment. So when I was seeing, say, for instance, a spirit guide, and I could see a living person or someone in spirit versus someone who's alive, they wouldn't look any different for me. They would look the same. And so I thought that everybody was able to perceive it the same way as I did. So it was only as I grew older that I figured, well, my mom and dad couldn't see that, and other children couldn't see that. And I was the only one who was able to experience these things. And I was finding it very odd at times, fascinating at other times. So I grew up with that. And it was more of, I guess it was unsettling at times, because you realize that you are isolated in a way, even though you are a part of the entire realm here, but you still feel a little isolated every now and then. So it was more of a challenge for me to grow into being who I really am as an individual, and someone who was able to see and feel more than other people could, but still try and fit in, because that was the normalcy of life. And fortunately, my parents were both clairvoyant. And oops, I think we have a little bit of a power issue here.
Uh-oh.
I do not know what happened.
It's okay.
We'll keep going anyway. Yeah, everybody can hear me fine. So You see, as I grew older, well, blame it on the retrograde. I don't know what you could blame it on.
How about blame it on something? Two powerful people together,
maybe. We're trying. So I'll just keep talking anyway. We'll be back. Sure. So as I said, you see, as I grew older, I started to learn about the different perceptions I could actually hold on to. There we are, we're back. So the different perceptions we can hold on to. Yes. And I grew with it. But somewhere along the line, my parents obviously wanted me to also be a normal child, to be able to fit into a normal life here. So I was fortunately provided an environment at home where I could discuss my experiences without being judged.
Yeah.
But of course, they did of course tell me, you can't go out there and talk to your friends about this, and don't try to, go and discuss this with everybody. So I grew up with that, But over the years, just like everyone else, I went through my adolescence, I went through my school years, my university, my career. I had to just fit in. But the more I tried to fit in, the more that urge was inside of me to do something different with whatever I already knew. Whatever I already always knew was a part of me. Because for me, I never stopped seeing spirits. I never stopped seeing everything that I had started when I was seeing when I was very young. So it was always there with me. I could always see more. But I chose to ignore along the way, you know, and sometimes I felt like I learned how to interact with my spirit guides when I was in my 20s. And that was when I started doing my spiritual work. And my late teens, my early 20s. And I learned how to communicate with them, how to, you know, I figured that they could actually do more for me. And they did urge me constantly to always remember that this was the roots. This was the basic foundation that I had to work with. So no matter what I did in my life, there was always this urge to get back to it. And so after 20 years of that, today I feel that I've come a long way, and I have been able to inspire a lot of people. I'm very humble and grateful, above all, that I was able to do this much in my life.
Yeah. You know, and most people, when they learn that they have these gifts of communication with spirit, right? A lot of times what they do, because they don't fit in, a lot of times what they do is they try to shut it off, you know, or turn it down.
Right.
And then they get to, you know, fast forward in their life, and then all of a sudden it's like, I want that gift. I want to know more about it, and trying to turn the volume back up or turn it back on. And I think that those individuals, and there's many, really many, trying to get comfortable with their abilities and their gifts. And so this is where I believe this kind of conversation is very helpful, is because they have role models. They have role models who were able to keep it going all these years, right? And now here we are in this new vibration that many of us have never experienced in this physical lifetime. And here we are surrounded by a higher vibration. And how do we evolve spiritually with those? Do you ever find that people kind of revert back to the old way of doing it and it doesn't quite work anymore, you know? So I don't know. Tell us about that.
Well, I have a lot of people who come to me and say the same thing where, you know, I remember when I was a child, I was able to experience these things. And then I was out of fear or something. I just shut it off. I didn't want to see it anymore, or didn't want to experience it anymore. And then now I'm older and I feel like I want to experience it again. I do have a lot of people saying that to me as well. Now, the only thing I can say is, you see, it's not necessary for every incarnation, every soul in every incarnation to have continuous contact with the other side. It's not necessary. It's based on your mission here. It's based on what you are here to accomplish. Now, spiritual growth, sometimes it depends on how you navigate through life. Sometimes you're here to just have a balance in working on yourself, the inner growth, and it may not involve you using your spiritual gifts to serve or to help yourself, but for your own inner growth. But for others, it may become a necessity where, you know, you need to be exposed to certain experiences, which are supernatural, in order for you to grow. So it basically depends from incarnation to incarnation, basing your missions here, your soul contracts, whatever purpose you're here for in each incarnation. So it's not necessary for everyone to be able to experience all of their spiritual gifts throughout life. Now, that's the first thing that people need to realize. But at the same time, we all have the innate ability to use our intuition, our third eye. None of that is exclusive.
Right.
It's just made to feel exclusive. Now, there are a lot of people who say, you know, I know how to activate your third eye or open your third eye. Now, the third eye itself is something that has been a part of our biological system. It's connected to the physical self and not just the soul. So to say something like this, especially when there are a lot of people who are being misled, I won't say misled. I believe it's part of their journey. to
Right.
go through that little learning curve and understand things differently.
Mhm.
So this particular thing, especially about the third eye, where people say, I can open your third eye, and you have to activate it, you have to decalcify it. And I would say that I didn't have someone telling me all of these things when I was a child, or even as I grew older. I did not have a mentor.
Mhm.
And I was able to experience all of these. So you see, what I teach is what I have experienced through life.
Yes.
And it works for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
In all of these years, I have been teaching a lot of students, and I tell my students that don't ever think that you can't do this, and it takes a special person to do this.
Right.
Don't ever think that it's just a psychic or a medium who can actually have that clairvoyance or who can actually read. We are all part of the same system. We're all part of the one consciousness, and anyone who wants to really work on those abilities, it's just like honing any other skill in life. It's just like toning any muscle in your body. If you use it enough, you will be able to use it anytime you want, whether
Right.
you're 60 years old or you're 6 years old. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's only believing in it. There are common obstacles, like people doubt what they experience. We
Mhm.
pass it off as coincidences or
Yeah.
imagination.
Imagination.
And then we have people who have fear
Mhm.
of the unknown.
Mhm.
And then the third part is the ego. The ego, the mind, tells you that you are not doing it right, or you're not capable of doing it. Now, these three are the main obstacles for all of us.
Mhm.
And until you get to a certain point, you will keep going through these barriers, because there are stepping stones to discovering
Mhm.
the soul in you.
Yeah.
So I would say that people who want to get ahead and move ahead and discover that all for themselves all over again, they need to, first of all, insist on having a mentor, someone who would guide them based on their pace, their strengths.
Mhm.
It has to be a relationship.
Right. Right.
The internet, for instance, gives us access to a whole lot of information, and it's sporadic,
Mhm.
and none of it is consistent,
Right.
because anyone can put in information, any kind of information online.
Mhm.
And for someone who is newly awakened, and for someone who's trying to figure this out all by themselves, it can get confusing.
Yes, it can.
It can be very confusing.
Mhm.
So the best thing to do would be for them to intuitively feel drawn to some teacher. Go for that person.
Mhm.
Don't go by the most popular names. I even tell people when they want to enroll for my course, I tell them, unless you feel drawn to my work, do not just think this is just another course you can pay for. And you can walk in here and, and I'll just show you the tricks. It's like hocus pocus. This is what you need to know. And you go figure it out on your own. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You have to feel drawn to me. I have to feel drawn to you. I have to know that you really want to do this,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
And do the work.
that is important.
Yeah.
That is so important in
Mhm.
spirit work. It is important. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell people. You're discovering yourself all over again. It's the most sacred part of your existence here.
Mhm.
Everything else, we go to work, we go to school, we learn, get a degree. All of these things are all programmed by this realm. But when it comes to your soul,
Yeah.
it's something far more sacred
Mhm.
and needs to be respected and needs to be, really taken very cautiously, seriously.
Mhm.
It's not like any other course you go through. You go through a 2-day Reiki course and you become a Reiki master. That's not how it is.
Right.
The real spirit work is way more intense and deeper and takes a lot more time and effort,
Time.
commitment.
Yes. It takes time to unfold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about learning about your gifts. It's about your inner work. You need to know that you need to heal from some things to be able to bring something into you.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things,
Yes.
connected to the
Yeah.
whole network. Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes it so.
We have a whole lot of people here, and some people are longtime listeners of my show, and a lot of people here for you. Here, let me see. We have Rochelle is here with us. Hello, Rochelle. Good to have you here. And also Linda. Linda is from Wisconsin. Hello, Linda. And thank you, Rochelle, for sharing. And also Linda shared as well. And Esperanza's with us too. Hello, Esperanza's. Good to see you in the house. She also shared. And here's somebody, Abel Garcia. Hello, Abel. Good to have you here. Thank you, Rochelle. Rochelle, I think, is really saying yes to what you were saying about this is about your soul, and we should take it seriously. It does take some time. Abel's saying amazing information. Yes. Hello, Pat. Good to have you in the house. Abel's saying amazing information is I myself, I'm in the spiritual journey. Well, good for you, Abel. Thank you for sharing that. Julie's here, Julie Shumway Hill. Hello, Julie. She's one of our executive team members here at Star Nations. Roxanne Barker is here. She says, hi, beautiful energies. Hello, Roxanne. Thank you, Chantel, for sharing. It's good. And hello, Leandra. Good to have you here. It's nice to be able to say hi to people when they've taken their time to be with us, and just to take a few minutes to say hello to them. Now, when we're here in this, and we'll call it a new age, when I'm not really fond of that term, but lack of a better way of calling it something. This is where we find ourselves in this, our spiritual growth and our time here on Earth. We're in a much higher vibration because Grandmother Earth is at a higher vibration. And so in order for us to be with her, we have to be in a match with her, right? And so when we talk about the future of spirituality, how do you see that, Ayesha? How do you see where we evolve to and where we're going with our spirituality?
Well, we've come a long way, for sure. And what I do foresee for the future is that spirituality will soon be accepted in every aspect of life because it becomes a necessity. Mm-hmm. You see, everything is programmed in this realm, and the more we awaken, and there is a massive awakening happening around the world right now, and this massive awakening is basically enabling people to see, or they feel urged to look beyond what this realm is offering. And there is a lot of conflicts. There are a lot of conflicts, and there's a lot of confusion in the system that people are trying to understand, that people are trying to grasp onto. And when that fails to impress them, when that fails to bring results that they seek at a very deep level inside them, you start to see people wanting more. And that's what spirituality offers. It gives you the freedom to decide what you want to believe in, what you want to grow with, and it gives them the freedom to be themselves. Mm-hmm. You see, but a lot of people are so conditioned by their societies, the communities, by their families, the way they were raised, the backgrounds. So it will take everybody a learning curve. It's not going to be easy. It takes everybody a learning curve to get there. But there's a lot more people in it now than there were maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. There are a lot more people who are more open to this now. Mm-hmm. So the systems of this world will not collapse, but they will have a lack of, from what people used to believe, and now the belief system is slowly changing as we evolve, not just as a civilization, but we evolve as souls. Mm-hmm. And there are more people who are evolving. Mm-hmm. And as the needs are changing, mm-hmm. Your emotional needs are changing, your soul needs are changing. And as they evolve too, the world will have to move along with it, mm-hmm. you see? And so everything slowly is bringing in, parapsychology and noetic science were not even accepted as a part of our realm maybe 20 years ago. True. But now they teach it in reputed universities around the world. Mm-hmm. So what does that go to say? That explains itself that we are slowly, as a civilization, beginning to accept beyond our boundaries. Mm-hmm. And there are people who are making that effort in these particular fields to bring that out. Yes. Because you cannot always brush it off as supernatural, imagination, coincidences, and, you cannot keep doing that, because spirituality has been the oldest form of science and any kind of faith. Everything has been derived from it. Mm-hmm. And that cannot be denied for long. Mm-hmm. After a point of time, people will not be able to deny that, because that is the truth, and it will remain the truth. And over time, everything from now, Reiki is recognized worldwide, yoga is recognized worldwide, all of these different kinds of art forms and different kinds of expressions of medicine and science, everything evolves. Mm-hmm. And though it evolves, it also merges with
Yes.
the truth, spirituality. And that is where people will realize that over time, it is all right. It is fine to be a part of the spiritual community. It is fine to find that comfort, to find oneself again in this form. So like anything else, just like how religion grew over the many centuries, just like anything else grew, spirituality will come back because that's the root of our very existence.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree. You know, and for me, it's a lot of where we place our energy allocation, where we place our focus, right?
Yeah.
And it goes all the way down to where we decide to spend our money, where we decide to spend our free time, and the more we spend it with places and on things that feed our soul, that means that there's items in our world that no longer receive enough energy to stay afloat, to stay alive, and so they too have to evolve, or they go away.
Yes, right? It's basic law of attraction. It's again basic law of attraction. You always attract whichever frequency you are at. You can believe yourself into anything. And that's why they say you better be careful about what you want.
Right. Be aware of what you're choosing, right? Because everything has everything does. Whether you have to make the choice of, do you want this consequence or that consequence in your choice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned something in your bio that I found fascinating, and I was hoping that maybe you can expand on it just a bit, and I'll see if I can find it. It had something to do with being able to go and to travel from dimension to dimension. And sure, now I want to see it and I can't find it. I know it's here. But I thought, here it is. It says, with extraordinary intuition and clairvoyance that has enabled her to communicate and access multiple dimensions in ease since childhood. Can you share a little bit more about that with us?
Well, when I say access, it's pretty much, I didn't want to make it sound, the first thing that I've always been worried about is the way people would perceive any kind of information I share from, because first of all, I don't want to be categorized as someone who claims to know a lot. I'm here basically not to show that I am capable of doing these things. Most of my work revolves around empowering people to understand that they too are capable of doing these things. Because whatever we do and say and think on an everyday basis, we want to keep moving forward. We want to see what more is there in life that we can dig into to explore. And I feel that I would love everybody and not just make them think that I can do this, but I want everybody to know that they can do this too. So exploring dimensions, for instance, is not as complicated as it sounds. It's easy. The only thing that people need to do is believe in what they experience. It's down to the basics. If you can imagine an apple in your mind, even though it's not in front of you physically, that's the first step towards the fact that you are indeed using your third eye to see it. Anyone who can imagine, visualize, has a third eye. Without your third eye, you would not be able to do it. It's as simple as that. Now, if that was just understood by everybody, they would stop doubting whatever they experience supernaturally. That's the very basic, that's the fundamental aspect of learning about your spiritual gifts, because everybody has it. You don't need to develop it or open it or activate it. It's just right there. So when I say about other dimensions, now, there are some experiences which I can share. Like, for instance, as in my 20s, I was able to go back into even different spaces of time, going back into my past lives. If I could walk into a room, I would, and that room would transform into a different time that I lived in. I would be able to see and remember, because I've had that ability since childhood. I was able to see different times. I didn't categorize it as dimensions. It was more of a different time, a different space. So And I believe that everything exists on a parallel plane. So why can't we? It's more of a belief.
Mm-hmm.
When I can imagine myself to be somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
if I can look at a photograph of of any place, of the Great Wall of China, for instance, and I could imagine myself to be there. It's basically how you use your mind, manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
But when it talk about accessing other dimensions which you have not seen before, that of course you do need the support of your spirit guides. You do need protection, and because there are all kinds of coexisting entities in all kinds of dimensions, and so you do need protection. So there is a lot at stake when you actually tell people, "Oh yes, you can do this, you can do that," but people play with the Ouija board, people play with all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they think it's fascinating, and then they get into some kind of trouble, and they say, "Oh, so and so said it's okay." I wouldn't say it's okay. I would say that I experienced it because I was meant to.
Mm-hmm.
And you will, if you're meant to. If it aligns with your life mission here, you will experience it, and you just have to believe in what you experience. Mm-hmm. So if you are experiencing something out of the ordinary, a lot of people either get scared of the experience or they get fascinated.
Right.
So when in fear, they usually don't want to see it again. Mm-hmm. But if they were to just change their perception, and that's when it turns into fascination, curiosity, and then they want to explore that. Mm-hmm. But I would say accessing other dimensions, it is an exercise that can be pursued by anyone who is curious enough to learn, curious enough to discover that aspect, that potential in them. Mm-hmm. Because we are not blocked from other dimensions. We are not blocked from anything. The only thing that stands in the way of that exploration and us is the mind, the ego, the fear, the doubts. So yes, anyone can do it. It's not so difficult. And other dimensions exist. In fact, when we look at the spiritual community now, there are people who say, "Oh, we are Arcturians and we're Pleiadians," and I would think there are hundreds and hundreds of dimensions out there, and you speak just about 2 or 3. What happens to the others? You mean to say that we just come from a handful of dimensions, and so what happens to the others? You know? Right. And so there are a lot of people who are who are new to this, and the information that is put out there by the elite spiritualists, as I could call them that. Yeah. I don't categorize myself as an elite spiritualist at all. I don't think I ever will. Mm-hmm. And I feel that it kind of confuses people, because people who are new here, deserve to explore it by themselves. Mm-hmm. If they don't feel connected, for instance, when someone from Pleiadian and someone else starts talking about it, I don't even know the handful of dimensions they talk about, but they do speak about a few. Mm-hmm. And if a person who's new to the community does not understand or feel connected to whatever these people are talking, they will try to fit in anyway because it's new to them. Yeah. They will try. Mm-hmm. And until one fine day they discover they don't have to fit in. Mm-hmm. But right now, I observe sometimes, but I've always stood out, even in the spiritual community, as someone who's always stood out, because I don't align with whatever a lot of people say within the spiritual community. Mm-hmm. But I have, right from the beginning, attempted to just tell people that through my experiences, I can show you. Mm-hmm. If it resonates with you, it's wonderful. If it does not, you can move on. Mm-hmm. And that's how it should be. Right. That's how it should be. Exactly. Because we all have an intuition. We all can read energy from basically anything. Mm-hmm. You can read the energy of a pen to the globe. You can read the energy of anything. So read it. If it does not resonate, it doesn't matter how popular something is.
That's true.
It does not matter.
That is so true. You said so many good things in there. There was one that I said, oh yeah. My Misha, my grandfather, when I was quite young, one of the things he said to me was, granddaughter, when you go for information, meaning when you go with spirit to find some information, he goes, you're going for a purpose. That's not a playground out there. You go for a purpose. You're meant to be here because you're in this physical body.
Right.
You're meant to be here. Go do what you need to do, but come back. Don't play around out there. In other words, protect yourself, be good, do what you need to do, but come back. Yes. And that there's the common sense. Really, common sense, even in this physical plane that we're in right now, is that you wouldn't walk down every street by yourself. You'd take friends with you. You would, And it's the same way. It's the same way. You would take friends with you, and those are your spirit guides. Those are the ones who are with you to help you with protection. And
Yes.
so, I totally agreed with you when you said, that if that's your experience, if that you're meant to have that experience, you will.
Yeah.
You will. You don't have to force it. You don't even necessarily have to go out seeking it. It's going to come to you.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I always say the same thing about people who fear, and they talk about demons and talk about the lower vibrational entities. I always tell them, don't you ever, there are people who just don't want to get so deep into spirituality because they fear exposure to these entities and fear that there will be harm that comes from it because of the mental, the conditioning from childhood. The media and all of this conditioning, because fear is sensational.
Yes.
In this plane. So they love to inflict fear. Fear of the unknown is something that is sensational because it sells.
Right.
All right. So it also affects those who are newly awakened, people who are trying to explore, and then they remember the conditioning in their minds. They think of a spirit and they look at the spirit and they immediately, it's fear. Their first reaction is fear. They don't want to think because that's beyond them to think, to accept it as something else. So at the bottom line is, if someone comes and tells me I'm afraid of spirits, I would tell them, well, for instance, let's just say that this is the plane you should be unsure about. This is the unknown we're living in, not that. That is home. That is where we came from. And that's where we go back to,
Yeah.
And over here, this is the unknown. This is very much more unknown because you and I are sitting here asking for readings. And over there on the other side, they don't. Because they all know.
That's so true. That is so true. Because there's also this. It's almost gotten to be a cliche, but there's some truth to it. Is that at our soul level, we already know. We already know. And it's just taking it in and allowing our conscious self to agree with the soul, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and. So we already know that. Yeah.
We know a lot more about the other side than we want to believe. We do.
Yeah.
It's all about, every time we come here, we're just given a new car to drive. It's always the old driver.
A little bit more experienced driver each time, just a little bit more.
Yes, but you get a new car, and every time a new model car comes in rolling out, and then there are always these fancy features that you've got to learn how to do it. It's always... Yes, pretty much that's how I relate to every incarnation. When you hear, you just learn how to drive a new car. You know how to drive it, but you got to just learn it.
Yeah. It's a different make and model, but
right.
It's kind of like, this is going to be kind of strange, but years ago, it was in 2010 actually, because my dad had walked on, and I had to get a different vehicle because the lease on my vehicle was up, and I was nowhere even near serious or even wanting to consider picking out a new car. I just wasn't there, right? So my husband helped, and he kind of picked out a few, and I finally settled on one. But I went from having a Chevy to a Ford, and I'm telling you, everything is opposite.
Yeah, I hear you.
Everything opposite, so having to learn how to drive this new vehicle when everything was in reverse. So, the blinkers used to be on the right and now they're on the left, kind of thing. And it took me a little bit to get used to it. And basically that's what you're saying, is that it's just a different model.
It is. And so you just have to learn all over again how to do this. And sometimes when you evolve, as you move on to every incarnation, the chances of you having a spiritual awakening is higher. And sometimes you're just born with it. And so it makes it easier because it's just like an inbuilt GPS system. That's what your intuition is. So you learn how to use that. You learn how to evolve and move and understand things better at a deeper level. So it helps as you move along. So to be able to, there are a lot of people who compare themselves, their spiritual growth, with others. And this is for them. Now, if you keep comparing yourself to another person's journey, you have never walked in that person's journey. And vice versa. So to expect your spiritual experience to be exactly better or just the same as theirs, it's unreasonable to expect that, because every one of us is here with a different journey.
Yeah.
Every one of us here has a different mission.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have even been an ascended master in your past life, but here today you are here and you have not even spiritually awakened. That could happen. It does not mean that just because you were an ascended master in your past life, this incarnation, you would automatically be born as an ascended master. That just doesn't happen. Doesn't have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. There would be an ascended master living next door to you who doesn't have a clue about spirituality, because he's not meant to know that now. His purpose here is a completely different one. So the best way of going about understanding about your journey is to respect who you are as you are in this path. That's what you need to do, instead of looking around you, looking at the people who are better than you, comparing yourself to them. Now that really is nothing but something that the ego keeps insisting. So work with your soul. Your soul accepts you just as you are,
mm-hmm.
and grows with every single experience, every single situation.
Yeah. And you're right. You know, it's when we bump up against our ego, and it is putting the interference or the blocks in the way, those mental blocks, usually around those belief systems. Do you have anything that you can share with us about how, in this the evolution of our spirituality, that we can balance out the ego with the soul and with the heart, and so that we're a whole person, a whole being in balance?
Well, that usually takes several incarnations, several lifetimes. Sometimes just one incarnation alone would not be enough, because there's so much to learn, so much to absorb, so much to give away. And there's never an end to learning. I don't believe there is a part where you can actually sit there and say, I'm a master of this.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you look up at the sky, in the night sky, you know that you're a master of nothing. You don't even know what's up there.
Yeah.
All right. I don't believe in the systems, in the hierarchy systems, in the labels. I'm a master of this, I'm a master of that. Mm-hmm. Well, I would not personally use any of those labels on myself, because I think that puts me in a box, and I don't want that box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, people have to first understand that they are not here to compete. They're not here to control others. They don't have to control others.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to compete. They don't need labels. They don't need titles.
Mm-hmm.
Because spirituality is about energy. It's about vibration. You don't see, if you go into the astral plane, you don't see an ascended master walking around with a name tag saying, I'm an ascended master.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just had this, like, the character go through.
You know, to be honest, I mean, I don't think you'd even see someone like Jesus walking around saying, I'm Jesus Christ and I'm the ascended master, the founder of Christianity. You don't see that happening.
Yeah.
All right. People would just know. Souls recognize each other by
Mm-hmm.
vibration alone. Your work is through your vibration. And people can just do the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't need to see you putting up your profile, your flashy profile anywhere. So they just need to know. The only reason why I use my tag as a meditation guide is otherwise there are a lot of people who don't even know what I do, basically. Those, I'm talking about people who are not even able to read off your energy or whatever. So they, you know, it's like on Facebook, the most amusing thing for me is when someone comes and adds you as a friend, and then they would come and ask you, so what do you do for a living? And I would be like, okay, here's 5 different websites and 5 different links, because I do that much of work. But the thing is, at the bottom line is, I don't really need to do that. I wish I don't have to do that, because it saves a lot of my time if I don't have to explain what I do with, you know, for a living. But I feel, as far as with people who are awakened or not awakened, they can always sense it just by looking at a person, feeling a person. Anyone is able to basically have an intuitive understanding of a person who walks into the room. You just know that there's something about the person that you like, or there's something about the person's vibration that you don't like.
Right.
You do not have to have exchanged a single word with that person. That person doesn't even have turned around and looked at you, nothing at all, but you will know intuitively there is something about this person I like. So how is it possible for even a person who's unawakened additionally to be able to feel that?
Right.
That means that we're all capable of these abilities. All right. So people need to know that you don't have to be a spiritualist. You don't have to be a medium or a psychic to be able to do this. You just have to believe in yourself. Now, ego, again, it's something that you grow out of. People need to be able to perceive that everyone that you see, it's always a change of perception. I believe that spirituality is nothing but a change of perception. The moment you start to think differently, you will be able to experience differently.
Right.
And so if you're going to look at everybody else as a person, based on what you see, the appearance, the way they live, their lifestyle, their backgrounds, their faiths. If you just look at them as that package alone, you're still thinking from an ego level. The moment you start to look and feel the person, the energy, then the appearance doesn't matter. Everything else fades away.
Right.
And this takes time. You see, because there's always a friction between the ego, which is, the ego and the soul. And as long as there's friction, there will always be a stress. The stress comes in different forms because we are trying so hard to understand this world as souls, and we're not trying to understand this world as people. So when after a point of time you stop wanting to understand this as a person, that's when you start to look at your soul. And that's when people awaken. It's only through that friction that you want to awaken. Until you are made uncomfortable, you never feel the need to awaken.
Exactly. As soon as you said the word friction, I thought, okay, that is the choreographed dance between our ego and our soul. Is that our soul growth, our evolution of our soul is in that friction because it makes us uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so that mental mind of ours gets uncomfortable and eventually gets that, because that curiosity is built into. It's like, yeah, but what if I looked at it this way or that way? How would that be? And then you find your curiosity, which is part of your soul growth, comes up. And
yes.
Yeah, and so our soul growth is really about that friction between our ego and our soul.
Yes. And it takes time. It definitely happens, but it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it depends on how, we all have a free will. Above all, we have free will because we're not here to be puppets. We're here to grow as souls. So it's basically this. Before we incarnate, there is a boundary that we set as a soul. We set boundaries because those boundaries contain the missions, the soul contracts, the karmic cycles, all of that. Now, within that boundary you can move around anywhere. You're free to go. You're free to roam because that's your free will. But with every turn, there is a decision that you need to make, and that decision defines your next move. So every lesson, every challenge, everything that you go through in life, there are no wrong or right. There's always a lesson that comes with the next move. So as long as we understand that perception, as long as we accept it, that this is what we're here for, you will stop looking at the losses and think of the gains.
Right.
You will stop looking at the obstacles and start looking at the solutions.
The possibilities.
You see? Yep. Yes. And so it's basically every step of the way we learn something different. Every decision that we make, we grow. Sometimes we are just so attached by the Maya, the illusion around us in the form of people and situations and places that we do not move forward. We feel that we feel that strong sense of, fear of loss, when actually the loss is what helps you to bring new blessings into your life. Sometimes you have to experience temporary or permanent loss in order to learn to appreciate something, to heal from something. Without darkness, you can never appreciate light.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I love these kinds of conversations. I love them because, each one of us hears exactly what we're supposed to hear from that, or feel what we're supposed to feel from that. And then have that aha moment for ourselves, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure that we fit this piece in, is that through your teaching and through the message that you bring to thousands of people, you're coming to different parts of the world. You're coming actually over the pond to us, to Michigan, right? You're coming to Michigan
Yes.
and Missouri. Can you share about? I'm going to pull this up. Hang on. I just want to get the picture that you sent me. Get that pulled up. We're going to give it a little bit of a solo so everybody can see it. The Soul Wave Global Workshops. Can you tell us about that?
Well, as I have been teaching for many years now, I felt that, there are some aspects of spiritual teaching that requires a one-on-one interaction, and it cannot be done over online. And so I felt that there are a lot of other things that I could bring into. And this is a time where I wanted to step out of my online work temporarily to be able to meet people, and to be able to impart whatever I feel I wanted to give more into this world, through my other discoveries, my experiences, and particularly something that's very close to my heart, which is trance music.
Uh-oh. Let's see. We're going to pull this down and see if that makes any help. Your video is kind of stopping a bit, so let's see if we can get that to catch up. Rats, huh? Okay. Yeah, your audio is lagging behind. I don't know if you can hear me. So we want it to kind of catch up a bit. Let's see if the audio will correct itself. Otherwise, I'm going to have to refresh the page, because I really wanted to get this piece in. Okay, so Ayesha, if you can hear me, I'm going to refresh the page, okay? And audience, I'm going to drop out just for like a second, and then we'll be back, and I'm hoping that's going to adjust Ayesha's audio, okay? So hang in there with us, okay? Okay, I think we lost her. Rats. It's not what I wanted to do. All right, I'm going to send her a message and just let her know, just to click the link again. And when she does that, she'll come right back in. So let's see who's saying what in the chat, because it's been a while since I checked, you guys. So let's see. Hey, Becky's here with us too. Hello, Becky. Good to have you here. And also Cheryl. Hello, Cheryl. I hope you guys are enjoying this. And Abel wrote quite a piece here, but it's basically about when you're paying somebody, charging $100, high price. Tell them that you're a medium, right? Oh, great. Okay, hang on just a second. Ayesha and I are talking through the chat. I'll try again. Okay. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to send her the link again, and we'll see if that works. Yeah, we'll see if that works. And so, yeah, basically, Abel, that, I think you were agreeing with what Ayesha was telling us about that. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And Jessica says, hello, Jessica. Oh, look, one of my sisters is in the house, Christine. It's always good to have you with us. And hello to Mohammed. Good to have you with us in the chat too. Glad you could stop by. And Abel says, I'm one of them persons. I'm in fear. I'm afraid to go to do live readings, so I do private only because I'm afraid to be judged or pointed as weird. I know. And the thing is that, yeah, we have to get out of our own way, huh? We do. And if you weren't able to do that, you wouldn't be doing readings. So there is that. Okay, and hello, Cheryl. Good to have you here too. I'm waiting for Ayesha to come back in. Oh, she should have been back by now. Rats. Okay, I'm going to show you her flyer again. She is coming to Michigan, Grand Rapids, and looks like May 18th and 19th. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be in Michigan at the same time. I'm teaching a drum making workshop that weekend. Here she is. Well, hello there. I'm glad you could come back in. Let's see what your audio is like now.
I don't think I can see you.
Okay, I can see you.
You're not even know if I'm live.
Yeah, you are live. Can you hear me?
Oh, this is quite interesting.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to send her a message.
I can't
Can hear you.
see anything.
Can hear you.
Would you be able to remove that image because I can't see you on the webcam, Nishi?
Okay, hang on. Your video is frozen. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Ayesha? Huh. She can't hear me. Rats. All right. Can you hear me now? Nope, she can't. She just dropped out. All right, so she's going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan on May 18th and 19th. And we're going to put her links in the comments. Let's see. See if I can do that. Oh, she can't hear me or see me. Well, darn. I'm going to try refreshing the page again, okay? All right, we're going to try this one more time, okay? We're going to refresh the page, and we'll see if we can bring her back in, and we'll see what this does. I'm going to be gone just for a second, okay? All right, I'm back, and I'm going to have her try it again. Try it again. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you know, we were teasing about Mercury retrograde a bit. Part of it was serious. It's like to do this kind of interview with somebody who's, you know, in several different time zones away can get a little tricky. So we'll see if she comes back in. And I know that she's going to be in Missouri too. I just need to look at the dates here. Let's see what the dates are. The dates. That's in Grand Rapids. Oh, she doesn't give us the Missouri dates. These are only the Grand Rapids dates. And so she'll be teaching a workshop in Grand Rapids on May 18th and 19th. Yeah, I don't think she's going to be able to come back in. Thank you, Cheryl. That's right. You know, we're going to give it all we got until we can't give no more, right? Oh my gosh. Abel is saying exactly agree. We can feel intuitively and connect with the person. Yes, we can. We all can. I know. Me too, April. Yeah, I know. We're trying to get her back on. She's trying really hard on her end to be able to come back in. And it doesn't look like it. You know, she had a power outage too earlier into the show. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. We're going to give her just a couple more minutes, and then what we're going to do is wrap it up. And I'm going to put her links for how you can get a hold of her and also how you can visit or go to her workshop. I mean, I just need to get the right document up here. And we're going to see if we can get that in the chat for you guys, okay? Hang on. Yeah, technology's grand when it works, right? Okay, and I'm going to use my phone and get you those links. I'm going to go. All right, let's see. I'm going to copy those, and then we're going to put them into the news or into the comment section. So let's see, got to spell correctly. There we go. I'm going to paste those in for you guys so that you know how to get a hold of her, okay? And that last link that has simplyspirit.com, that is her book that goes along with her classes. So you can take a look at that, or you can get a hold of her through her website if you have any questions for her, okay? All right. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to try to see what happened to her and not keep you guys hanging. All right. So I really appreciate you guys being with Ayesha and I this for this live stream, for this interview, and to be able to hang in there with us with all of the technology ups and downs. We appreciate it. So enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you back here for Communications from Home next week, which is the April 2nd, I believe. And we're going to be doing the Unity Breath meditation. It's a guided meditation, and it's all about raising your frequency to love. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again. Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.